Well, hello and welcome. My name is Martin Lopez with Conscious Choosing. And as always, I'm excited for our webinars. Today's webinar is called The Cycle for Success. Now, the cycle for success is something we've built up to. So if you this is your first webinar, we're going to invite you to go back and look at our other webinars, and it leads up to this webinar. But we really hope that our webinars are whole and complete. So I have the opportunity and the privilege to interview one of my mentors, Hayden. He's the author of Conscious Choosing for Flow, Transforming Conflict into Creativity. So without further ado, let me introduce and bring in Hayden. Hayden, how you doing?
Hey, Martine, doing well, thanks. I really appreciate these interviews you do. I hope people are getting value from it and that they're learning a different way of thinking about interacting with each other. And this one today, the cycle for success, I think is really valuable on how to have success in our lives and what we can do to create it.
Yeah.
It's really valuable so that people can see what they can do to have more successful relationships and results in their lives. Because rather than blaming others, now they're not doing what we want to do, there's a cause and effect, or as Viktor Frankl said, there's a stimulus and response. We can create the stimulus to get the response we want, or we can create the cause to get the effect we want. And that's what we're going to be talking today about, is the cause and effect, stimulus and response, and what we can do to create that positive response that we're looking for.
So what I hear you saying is that I can scream, yell, judge, do all that, point my finger. That creates one version, right? Which one is that?
Yeah, that's the regressive cycle, because when you're yelling and screaming, I'm like, oh my word, I got to step back and go, I need to self-protect, this isn't working for me. So the progressive cycle is, hey, this worked for me. The way you're interacting with me, the way I'm interacting with you, we both say, hey, this worked for us. We feel safe, we feel respected, so let's go ahead and work together and collaborate at a whole new level.
So let's work together, let's collaborate at a whole new level. I think a lot of times people are unwilling to say, can you repeat that for me? Would you mind clarifying that? Would you agree?
I would agree, absolutely. Last time we talked about misunderstandings lead to conflict. So would you say that again? This is what I heard you say. It's really important to make sure we're in alignment. Give you an example. My wife and I recently got a new kitten, and it's has its little challenges. And she said to me a week after we got it, she said, I think we ought to talk about giving the kitten back. And I looked at her and I thought, are you serious? She goes, oh yeah, I'm very serious. What she actually said was giving the kitten a bath. I heard her say giving the kitten back. And I was shocked, and there was like, you got to be kidding. And once we clarified, we laughed about it. And, so we go, okay, let's make sure we hear each other correctly. So
That's
there's a
amazing.
misunderstanding.
Absolutely. And so many people, for some reason, because I would think oftentimes it's because they're protecting how they are viewed, is they don't get the clarification and move forward with the assumption that what they heard was correct.
Exactly. And a lot of times it's not what people really meant. If we say, this is what I heard you say, and we throw our meaning into it, they can say, yes, that was right, or no, that's not right, and they can clarify. If we don't give them that opportunity, you're right. We go along with an assumption, and sometimes our assumptions aren't right. And you know what they say, assumptions make an ass out of you and me, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And clarifying just puts so much respect into the space. When someone says something to me and I don't get it and I ask them, can you repeat it? Would you mind? There's something, it triggers something. They almost always get a smile on their face like, wow, you really want me to re-explain that?
Yeah, I really want to get what you said. So maybe my mind was thinking about something else, and I missed what you said. So please do it. It does send that message. Hey, I care, I respect you, and I really want to get it.
Now, when we don't do that, when we're not willing to risk ourselves, when we're not willing to get clarification, that's because of what?
Uh, Misunderstandings. We didn't hear people. We attribute ill will to their speaking. We judge them. We blame them, and we speak our judgments, and then they have to self protect. And those are reptilian reactions we talked about last time when
Uh-huh.
you put those graphics up there, that continuum. Uh, the fight. The violence graphic of fighting is
Yeah.
blaming, judging, lashing out, or the flight is the defensiveness, disengaging that you had put up there before. So that's what violates respect. And what we're saying is we can start out with curiosity. We can ask a question. Would you say that again? That's making a request of people. And if we're going to get in the progressive cycle, we need to keep it safe and respectful. And it's not that difficult. We just have to think, what would work for me? How about if I do it with them? See if it works for them. And usually what works for us will probably work for other people
It almost always does. It seems it just seems to work
most of
out
the
that
time.
way. Yeah.
No,
So it's
most
that
of the time.
respect, creating respect and safety. So the beginning of the progressive cycle, and I love it. You just keep talking about curiosity, curiosity, because that's the keys to the kingdom.
There was a doctor at a hospital I worked at, and he stood up in a workshop and he said, the one thing I learned from Hayden is stop making so many statements and start asking questions. The curiosity of asking questions allows other people to contribute. When we make statements, they usually come across as judgments, blames, or complaints, and it doesn't leave room for the other person to speak, and they just have to sit with that cause and the effect.
Yeah.
The cause of all those judgments, the effect is people start to self-protect and they withdraw.
Well, in the workshop we have actually a part where we talk about what happens. What we have a short list of things that happen when you are in the progressive cycle or the regressive cycle. Why don't we go over the progressive cycle first? Would that be okay?
Absolutely. We do ask, okay, so if it works for you and works for everyone in your team, what would you see that would say, hey, this is working for them? And they come up with ideas and they share them. And it's usually there's a higher level of creativity. People are able to work through their challenges in a timely manner, that they're willing to explore and discover new ways. They feel safe to explore and share their opinions and ideas with each other, and they're not made wrong.
Yeah.
Like, no one says, hey, that's a stupid idea.
That usually doesn't work.
That doesn't work. And people go, whoa, I think maybe I better keep my mouth shut from now on. It's like, hey, yeah, bring it up, share your ideas. Maybe we're not going to use them. Maybe we're not going to explore them, but at least share them. Feel free to, and feel safe to. So that feeling safe to explore and discover is really important. If we don't feel safe and we're not respected by others, this progressive cycle can be challenged and start to close down.
Yeah.
So that's an important aspect. Leveraging the difference of insights of each other.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones, really.
If we're able to leverage your differences, because you probably have a different perspective, you see things different.
Yeah.
And when I listen to what you're saying, it's like, wow, I hadn't thought of that before.
Yeah.
And that's where creativity and innovation happens, is when people are willing to risk and share their ideas, and we look at each other not as wrong, but just different, and we have different ideas. And the other thing that people usually say is when we make commitments to each other, we follow up and we follow through on our commitments.
Yeah.
We don't have to go around and police each other. It's a natural responsibility. One company I work with, Balin Manufacturing, has a concept called 100-0.
100
And what that means,
okay.
100-0, and that's 100% responsibility and zero excuses.
Wow.
I'm 100% responsible for my commitments to you, and I have zero excuses. That's pretty phenomenal. If you can actually operate that way, man, look at what would be possible for a company if they said 100% responsibility, zero excuses.
How'd they come up with that?
Their chairman, who bought the company out, and brought it private, Tony Raimondo, amazing guy,
Uh-huh.
and through his leadership, I think they came up with that. I'm guessing
Wow.
here,
Wow.
but
It's very creative, very, very powerful.
yeah, absolutely. You know, creating the progressive cycle is creating safety for other people if you want to speak, and then sharing something with them if they're curious that they get at a whole new level. And I think you shared an example with me about where you did it with your son, Jordan.
With Diego, with my
Oh,
son Diego.
Diego. Oh, it
Yeah.
was Diego.
Yeah.
And the principal calling you in and had a problem with something he was doing, and the way you handled it, was phenomenal. And I wonder if you could share that example with everyone on the webinar.
I'd love to. I'd love to. So my son Diego's a lot like me, a little mischievous, and very outspoken. So he got in trouble, and he had to sit in a certain area. So he had to sit, and the teacher a little while later asked him why he was sitting in a different area, and he said, "I'm rebelling. I'm doing it because I'm rebelling." And the teacher looks at him and says, "Oh, you're rebelling, are you?" He says, "Yeah, I'm rebelling." So the teacher then, he asked the teacher, "Do you want to know why I'm rebelling?" And the teacher then started telling him why he was in trouble, why Diego was in trouble. So he told Diego why he was in trouble and what had happened. And Diego said, "Okay, I'm in trouble because," and Diego's learned how to respond this way through, just being in our family and being involved with conscious choosing for flow. So Diego says, "So I got in trouble for this and I got in trouble for that." And then the teacher says, "That's correct, Diego." And so Diego says, "Do you want to hear why I rebelled?" Teacher says, "No, that's okay. No problem. Just go ahead and play." So Diego went ahead and played. So Diego gets in the car and he tells me this whole story. And I said, "That's pretty interesting." So I get an email and a phone call from the principal that she wants to now talk to me about what happened. So the next day I go in and I'm talking to the vice principal, and we're sitting around chatting, and she just wanted to make sure I was clear on what happened and all that. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you mind if I point something out?" And she says, "No, not at all." And I said, "Well, Diego's teacher was satisfied with Diego because Diego was able to explain to him what the teacher said. So he was able to give back to the teacher what the teacher said happened." And you said, "Yeah." And the teacher was happy. And he said, "Yes." And then he got to go and play then. And he said, "Yes." I said, "Do you know that Diego asked the teacher the question, 'Would you like to know why I'm rebelling?' And the teacher never answered the question. He wasn't even interested. And Diego was actually a little taken back from that. He was just kind of a little upset about that. Why doesn't he want to hear what I have to say? And I have to hear what he has to say. And the principal looked at me and she said, "Wow, that's really interesting. I do that a lot in my life also." And I started sharing a little bit about conscious choosing, and she's like, "Can you bring conscious choosing to our school? I think we'd benefit quite a bit." And she just had an absolute, just a eye-opening experience in just that conversation, seeing how the interaction happened with Diego and Diego's teacher, and then her and myself.
That's a wonderful example, to share that. And you asked the question. You were very respectful. Can I share an observation with you? And she said yes. So you asked permission first, and then she opened up her mind to listen, and then had this big aha that the teacher got heard and he felt good, but Diego didn't get heard and he felt a little upset. So you created safety, and so now you're in this progressive cycle with the school, the principal, because you were very respectful and kept it safe for them.
Absolutely.
That's what we're talking about, progressive cycle.
100%. And Diego was able to also represent that as well when he talked to the teacher.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
Good for you. You're teaching your kids how to use these skills, man. Good for you.
we're teaching them. I'm learning from you, and then I'm paying it forward.
There you go, paying it forward. I like that. Yeah.
So thank you for letting me share that story. I really appreciate that. And we're really committed that we get in and get out in about 15 minutes. So
Right.
Is there anything else you want to share on today's webinar?
Uh, when we're in the progressive cycle, it works for me and it works for you. So with Diego, it worked for the teacher, but it didn't work for Diego.
Yeah.
So, that's important to ask, did this work for you? And if they go, well, not exactly, then address it. So let's not ignore it or step over it, but let's ask questions and be curious. Did it work for you or not? If
Yeah.
not, let's talk about it.
That's
So
great.
I think that's important.
That. Thank you very much. I want to share something with you, or point something out. You say this works for me, or this doesn't work for me. That's actually a distinction that you make inside of the book.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because don't we all have that going on? And we also ask, how do you know it doesn't work for you? Well, you can see we're not getting the results outside, but internally we feel upset, disappointed, discouraged. So our feelings is a directional guide to whether something works for us. If it works for us, we feel encouraged, empowered. So we'll talk later about the power of our feelings being a directional guide to whether we're being in flow with each other or not.
That'd be terrific. I know everybody's looking forward to that, and so am I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool. So, Hayden, if people want to get a hold of you or get a hold of conscious choosing and bring conscious choosing to their company, what's one way that they can do that?
They can go on our website, consciouschoosing.com. They can send us an email at info@consciouschoosing.com. Or if you want to email me, it's hayden@consciouschoosing.com, and make a request and have a phone call to explore and discover if this would be the right option for you and if this would get the value for you. So thanks for this interview, Martine. I think you're going to put the contact stuff up here pretty
Absolutely.
soon,
It's already up.
Yeah, okay, good. Very good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Hayden, and we'll talk in a couple weeks.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Martine.
You
See
bet.
you later.
Take care. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.